Szmyt, the rookie kicker who just missed the moment that could have made his season. And then, something unexpected happened. Cut through the shock, the murmurs, the disappointment, and there was Shedeur Sanders. Not sulking. Not pacing. Not pointing fingers or diving into the tablet to dissect what went wrong. He walked straight over to Szmyt. No cameras in mind. No agenda. Just presence. Just purpose. And in that moment, captured by a random sideline cam that now has millions of views, Shedeur wrapped his arm around the rookie's shoulders, leaned in close, and said something that changed the entire temperature of the moment. We don't know exactly what he said. But whatever it was, it wasn't for show. It wasn't a PR move.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
It wasn't a look-at-me moment. It was real. And you could feel it. Szmyt nodded. Exhaled. The tension in his shoulders dropped. That one moment of failure, the one that could have spiraled into self-doubt, media flameouts, locker room isolation, it didn't. Because Shedeur didn't let it. And just like that, the story shifted. This wasn't about a missed field goal anymore. It was about leadership. Let's not forget, this is the same Shedeur Sanders that was dragged through the mud during the draft process. Too flashy. Too self-absorbed. More brand than ball. We heard it all. Talking heads questioning his humility. Analysts critiquing his leadership. Scouts whispering that he didn't have that dog in him. Turns out, he's got it. And it's not bark, it's presence. Because this is what leadership looks like. It's not just pre-game speeches or calling plays in the huddle. It's showing up in the quiet moments. The messy moments. The uncomfortable moments. It's looking a teammate in the eye after their worst mistake and saying, I got you. It's human. And that, more than any stat line, is what separates stars from superstars. Because let's be real, NFL fans aren't just watching for touchdowns anymore. They're watching for authenticity. For heart. For someone who isn't just playing the game but changing the energy around it. And Shedeur? That's what he did. The moment hit social media like wildfire. Clips hit X, IG Reels, YouTube Shorts, SportsCenter, ESPN. Even players from other teams reposted it, commenting on how rare it is to see that level of composure and empathy from a rookie. That's not just going viral. That's impact. Suddenly, the conversation around Shedeur wasn't about his arm strength or his jersey sales or the drama with Stefanski. It was about character. And isn't that what this league claims to value? Because here's the irony. The same organizations that question young players, intangibles, rarely know how to develop them. But Shedeur came in with that leadership DNA already baked in. No need to teach it. No need to fabricate it. He just is that guy. And if you're in Cleveland's front office watching that clip, you better be re-evaluating every decision you've made this season. Because how many players on this roster would have done the same? How many would have swallowed their own disappointment, stepped up to the most vulnerable man on the team, and made sure he didn't spiral? And Shedeur? He's the quarterback. The one with every reason to be upset. The one whose record just took another hit. The one who could have pointed the finger and made this about him. But no. He made it about us. He reminded everyone in that moment that football is more than points. It's about people. And that clip, that quiet sideline moment, might be more valuable than any fourth-quarter drive. Because let's talk about what that really means in a locker room. When teammates see that, they rally around it. They feel that leadership. And it doesn't matter if you're a vet or a rookie, you want to play for a guy like that. You want to win for him. That kind of leadership transforms teams. And let's not ignore the ripple effect here. The media's watching. The fans are watching. More importantly, the league is watching. Execs are calling their assistants like, why didn't we move up for him in the draft again? Meanwhile, ownership in Cleveland is probably watching that same clip wondering how they almost wasted this guy behind a broken quarterback committee and a coaching staff that couldn't see the forest through the depth chart. Because in one clip, in one interaction, Shedeur Sanders told us everything we needed to know about who he is. He's not just a quarterback. He's a connector. A culture setter. The kind of guy who builds legacy not through ego but through empathy. And that matters. Especially in a league that's built on fragile confidence, non-stop scrutiny, and locker rooms that can fracture on a single bad week. It's not an exaggeration to say this moment could be a pivot point. For Shedeur. For the Browns. For how teams evaluate leadership in the draft process moving forward. Because this league is overdue for a mindset shift. We've had decades of rah-rah, alphas, screamers, and silent stoics being held up as the gold standard of leadership. But what about emotional intelligence? What about the quarterback who listens? The one who lifts others up in failure, not just in victory? That's Shedeur. And the sooner Cleveland leans into that, the better their future looks. Because this league doesn't need another tough guy in a headset. It needs leaders with heart. And lucky for them, they've got one. Here's where things get even more powerful, because that moment with Szmyt, it wasn't just a single act of grace. It was a window into what kind of franchise quarterback Shedeur Sanders actually is. Most rookies wouldn't even think to comfort the kicker after a game-losing moment. Not because they don't care, but because they're too consumed by survival. Their job, their contract, their standing in the pecking order. Rookies are told to keep their heads down, don't ruffle feathers, and definitely don't get involved in drama that isn't directly yours. But Shedeur? He did the opposite. He stepped into someone else's pain, not because it was expected but because it was right. That's emotional courage. That's leadership DNA. That's the stuff you can't teach. And let's just be honest. This entire season, the Browns have been in desperate need of a leader who can unify, not divide. Someone who doesn't just show up when things are going well, but who actually keeps the team together when it all goes sideways. You look around that sideline after the missed field goal and a lot of guys had their heads down. Some were frustrated, some stunned, but no one moved. No one stepped toward Andre, except Shedeur. That's not just awareness. That's presence. And the impact of that moment? It didn't end on the field. Reporters started asking about it. Veterans in the locker room were nodding. Social media lit up with phrases like franchise guy, natural leader, and give him the keys already. Because people felt that moment in their bones. It was the kind of leadership that transcends stat sheets, combined scores, and film analysis. It spoke to something deeper, character. And this is exactly what Shedeur's doubters never understood. All those analysts who said he was just a brand. Just a social media phenom. All flash, no substance? They missed the point entirely. Yes, Shedeur has a brand. Yes, he's marketable. Yes, he has a camera crew following him at times. But what people forget is that this is a guy who spent his entire life being watched, judged, held to impossible standards. And instead of folding under that pressure, he became the guy who comforts the rookie in his darkest moment. That's not image. That's not PR training. That's real. So when we talk about potential franchise quarterbacks, why wouldn't Shedeur be in that conversation? He's got the arm. He's got the vision. He's got the work ethic. And now he's proven without a doubt that he's got the intangibles. The Browns have been searching for this guy for decades. Since Bernie Kosar, honestly. They've gone through how many quarterbacks? 20? 30? And now the answer might be sitting right in front of them. But here's the question that's about to define the entire future of the Cleveland Browns. Will they recognize it in time? Because moments like the one with Szmyt don't happen twice. You either see it and act on it or you brush it off and hope it doesn't come back to haunt you. And let's be real, if Cleveland fumbles this opportunity, it won't just haunt them. It'll define them. Because Shedeur is the kind of player you build a culture around. Not just an offense, a standard, a vibe, a brotherhood. He's the kind of quarterback that makes teammates believe not just in the game plan but in each other. That stuff changes everything, from the weight room to the film room to the locker room. It's contagious. And that's what separates Shedeur from the endless parade of next-up QBs. He's not trying to fit in. He's not hoping for a chance. He knows who he is. And he's inviting everyone else to rise with him. Think about that. In a league built on bravado and ego, Shedeur's greatest strength might just be his humility in big moments. Not the fake kind. Not the say the right thing in the interview kind. The kind where you walk across the sideline when it's uncomfortable. The kind where you choose empathy instead of anger. The kind where you lead not because it's your job but because it's who you are. And this moment, this viral sideline flash of humanity, is going to live on for a long time. Because it's not just a sports highlight. It's a blueprint. A blueprint for how NFL teams should evaluate character. A blueprint for how rookies can lead without needing a C on their chest. A blueprint for how teams like the Browns can rebuild, not just with talent but with trust. And honestly, it might be the moment that redefines Shedeur Sanders' entire NFL narrative. Not as a flashy, overhyped, brand-first player, but as a culture changer. So the Browns need to ask themselves, do they want to build around someone like that? Or do they want to keep chasing the illusion of safe options? Veterans with resumes but no locker room presence? Coaches who play scared? Systems that care more about predictability than potential? Because Shedeur showed them the way. In a single moment. No play call required. And the whole world saw it. And now that the moment has been etched into NFL folklore, the question isn't just about what Shedeur Sanders did. It's about what the Browns will do next. Because here's the truth no one in that front office seems ready to confront. You can't teach what Shedeur just showed. You can run every drill. You can run every film session. You can bring in consultants and sports psychologists and cultural advisors. But you cannot simulate what it means to lead with humanity in a pressure cooker moment. That's either in your blood, or it's not. In Shedeur? It's in his. Let's take it a step further. Think about the ripple effect this one act of leadership just had. Not just in Cleveland. Not just in the AFC North. But across every franchise that passed on him in the draft. Across every scout that said, he needs to mature. Across every exec who mumbled about intangibles, without actually understanding what that word means. Because here's what they're all realizing now. Shedeur Sanders was never the question. He was always the answer. They just didn't want to admit it. And in classic NFL fashion, some of them still won't. They'll double down. They'll say, it was just one moment, or, let's see him do it in the playoffs, or he still hasn't faced real adversity. But here's the irony, this was adversity. And not just for Szmyt. It was adversity for Shedeur. Think about it, he's the quarterback. The guy who just saw a winnable game vanish because someone else didn't finish the job. He had every reason to be furious. He could have vented. Could have sulked. Could have walked to the locker room with that stone-faced, I'm locked in look, and no one would have blamed him. But instead, he walked into the pain. He chose grace, compassion, composure. That's not just rare. That's revolutionary. Because we've all seen quarterbacks in those moments choose ego over empathy, blame over bonding. And that's not a knock on them, it's just how most of them were taught. They were conditioned to focus on results, not relationships. But Shedeur? He's leading a new wave. A generation of quarterbacks who understand that the strongest voice in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the one that says, you're not alone, when someone needs it most. And if you don't think that matters in a locker room, ask the 52 other guys on that roster. Ask them if they'd run through a wall for the QB who didn't just talk leadership, but showed it when it counted. That's why this story matters. That's why it's bigger than a missed field goal. It's about identity. It's about trust. It's about a rookie quarterback who just proved, again, that he's more than the media ever gave him credit for. And now the pressure's on the Browns to evolve. Because they can't afford to wait anymore. Not when their rookie is out here redefining what leadership looks like in real time. Not when every GM in the league is taking notes and circling the date on the calendar when Shedeur's rookie deal is up. Not when fan bases are already whispering, man, I wish we had a guy like that. Let's not forget, Cleveland is a city starved for more than just wins. It's starved for an identity. A symbol. A quarterback that doesn't just win games but brings meaning to the wins. Something you can believe in. Something you can hand your kid a jersey for and say, yeah, this guy? He's different. They had glimpses with Baker. Hopes with Deshaun. But nothing stuck. And now, somehow, Shedeur Sanders, who walked into this league with cameras on his every move, carrying the weight of a name that echoes through college football, might be the most grounded, genuine, emotionally intelligent leader this franchise has had in years. So what's the move? What's the chess piece Andrew Berry and ownership are going to play? Because doing nothing is the worst thing they could possibly do. This is their inflection point. Their moment of reckoning. Do they double down on the same old structure? Do they feed the media the usual QB competition soundbites? Do they bench their only authentic leader when a couple of rough games roll through? Or do they lean in? Do they rip the script in half and say, we're building around this guy now? Full stop. Not just because of what he does on the field, but because of who he is off it. That decision, more than any trade, signing, or draft pick, could define the Browns' next decade. Because what Shedeur showed with Szmyt wasn't just a viral moment. It was a vision. A vision of what leadership looks like in 2025 and beyond. It's collaborative. It's compassionate. It's rooted in connection. And it's exactly what this league has been missing. So if you're Cleveland, you better wake up fast. Because Shedeur Sanders just gave you the blueprint. And if you don't build around it, someone else will. And here's the thing that really keeps Browns fans up at night. This wasn't supposed to be a leadership test for Shedeur Sanders. This wasn't supposed to be his moment to carry the moral weight of the franchise on his shoulders. He's a rookie. He should be worrying about coverages and timing routes, not holding up the emotional core of the locker room. But when no one else stepped up, he did. And that says everything about the state of this franchise. Because if your rookie quarterback is already the emotional backbone of the team, then guess what? He's not the future. He's the present. Let's not sugarcoat it. This organization has been searching for a heartbeat for years. Through coaching carousel after coaching carousel. Through quarterback controversies. Through busted first-round picks. Through bizarre off-field distractions. Through all of it, they've lacked one critical thing. A center of gravity. Someone who grounds the team in moments of chaos. Someone who doesn't flinch when the crowd turns hostile, when the narrative turns ugly, when the heat is unbearable. And Shedeur? He didn't just survive the heat. He redirected it. That's rare. That's not normal. That's not some side effect of being Dion's son. That's a gift. And if you're Cleveland, if you're even remotely competent as a front office, you treat that gift like gold. You protect it. You nurture it. You make damn sure that every decision from here forward says, we believe in this guy. Because let's be honest, Shedeur saved them. From themselves. He turned a potential post-game disaster into a moment of unity. A loss that should have fractured the locker room became a bonding point. All because he chose empathy when the rest of the team was stuck in silence. He did what the coaching staff couldn't. What the PR team couldn't. What no motivational speech or grit slogan on the locker room wall ever could. He reminded everyone that this is a team. And look, this isn't just a Cleveland problem. This is a league-wide blind spot. NFL teams know how to scout mechanics. They know how to run Wonderlic tests. They'll fly to pro days and obsess over 40 times in verticals. They'll spend millions on analytics teams that can predict route efficiency to the decimal. But they still haven't figured out how to measure soul. They can't quantify what Shedeur did on that sideline. They can't plug that moment into a spreadsheet. So they ignore it, or worse, dismiss it as just optics. But fans know better. Because when that clip of Shedeur comforting Szmyt hit timelines, people didn't just scroll past. They stopped. They shared it. They talked about it with their kids. They said, that's leadership. That's what it looks like. And they're right. It was one of the most human moments of the season. Not a touchdown. Not a sack. Not a flashy celebration. Just one teammate telling another, you're still part of this. And in a league that chews players up and spits them out the second they falter, that message matters. So where does this go now? If the Browns are smart, which, let's be fair, is still up for debate, they rally around this kid. Not just with lip service. Not with vague statements like, we're evaluating all our options at quarterback. No, they name him the guy. Full stop. They build the offense around his strengths. They sit down with him, listen, and ask, what do you need to lead this team? And most importantly, they let him lead. Not on their terms. On his. Because here's what happens if they don't. Someone else will. There are at least 10 teams in this league right now that would back up a Brinks truck to get a quarterback like Shedeur, one who throws darts and understands locker room chemistry like a vet. Atlanta? He fits the city. He fits the system. He fits the culture. Vegas? You don't think they'd love a star like Shedeur to rebrand the franchise? Dallas? Don't even get me started on the Dion connection. That would be football theater. Point is, Cleveland's got a gold mine. And they're treating it like a paperweight. But not for long. Because Shedeur isn't just going to sit in the shadows forever. He's already built for the spotlight. He's already earned the respect of his teammates. He's already shifting public perception. And now he's got the league's attention. So the Browns are on the clock. Again. Except this time it's not draft night. It's decision night. Will they double down on tradition and fear? Or will they recognize that sometimes greatness doesn't show up the way you expect it? Sometimes it shows up in a loss. In a moment no one wanted to own. In the way a young quarterback put his arm around a struggling kicker and said everything that needed to be said without needing a single camera to catch it. But the cameras did catch it. And so did the world. And now that everyone has seen what Shedeur Sanders is made of, the Browns have a choice. They can either follow his lead or get out of his way. Let's not waste any time, because if you're the Cleveland Browns right now, you are officially on the hot seat. Not because of a losing record. Not because of some locker room dust-up. But because you may have just found the most naturally gifted, emotionally intelligent, magnetic quarterback to walk through your doors in years, and you still don't know what to do with him. We're talking about Shedeur Sanders, and we're talking about the moment that changed everything. When Andre Szmyt missed that field goal, what should have been a routine game winner, you could feel the disappointment crash down like a wave. Fans went silent. Players turned away. Some couldn't even look. But Shedeur? He walked toward it. Toward the rookie kicker sitting alone in a hurricane of shame and regret. toward the pain no one wants to touch. No coaches, no teammates, just Shedeur. And that's when it clicked, for fans, for the media, and hopefully for the front office too. This kid isn't just built for the moment. He is the moment. The arm talent? That's been obvious. The poise under pressure? Proven. But this was leadership at its purest. Quiet, strong, unscripted. No cameras were meant to be rolling. No PR team planned this. And yet, it turned into the most important play of the game. Because what Shedeur did, walking across that sideline, putting his arm around Szmyt, telling him to keep his head up, it sent a message. I got you. Even when it's not convenient. Even when it's not about me. Even when we just lost. That's what leaders do. And if you're a player in that locker room, you feel that. You remember it. You tell your agent about it. You say, yeah, I'd go to war with that guy. Meanwhile, up in the owner's suite, Andrew Barry's phone probably started buzzing. Not just with media reactions but with execs from other teams watching that same clip, thinking, if the Browns don't want him, we will. Because let's be brutally honest, quarterbacks like this don't come around often. Yes, the NFL is full of strong arms. Plenty of QBs can throw a spiral 60 yards downfield or sling it sidearm on the run. That's baseline now. But you know what's rare? The intangibles. The guy who understands the room. The guy who feels when silence needs to be broken. The guy who doesn't wait for a coach to lead, but just does it. Shedeur's not waiting to be named QB1. He's acting like QB1. And in a league where culture matters more than ever, where fan loyalty, team chemistry, and off-field image can make or break a season, that's the type of player you build around. So the real question isn't, is Shedeur ready? It's, are the Browns ready for him? Because this organization has a reputation. A long one. A tortured one. A track record of burning through quarterbacks faster than they can print jerseys. And now, with the entire city watching, they have a chance to break that cycle. This is their moment to say, we see the future. And we're not afraid of it. But here's where it gets tricky, because historically, the Browns have been afraid. Afraid to go all in on someone who didn't fit the mold. Afraid to trust youth, personality, difference. Afraid to believe that leadership doesn't always come in the package you expect. And if they keep playing scared, they're going to lose him. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually, Shedeur will have options. Because the rest of the league is watching. And when his rookie deal is up, or when the Browns start messing with his reps, or if they dare float a veteran bridge QB in free agency, that's when the real drama begins. Because this isn't just a player. It's a movement. In Cleveland, right now, you're sitting on it hoping no one notices. But they do. Oh, they notice. Because viral moments like that, they echo. They echo through the locker room. Through press conferences. Through Instagram posts. Through fan podcasts and player interviews and group chats. You think those other rookies didn't see what Shedeur did for Szmyt? They saw it. And they know that's the guy who would do the same for them. That's the kind of leader young players want to rally behind. That's the kind of face brands want to endorse. That's the kind of quarterback owners want shaking hands with sponsors and making emotional speeches in team promos. So what are the Browns doing? Are they building a future around him? Or are they sticking to the plan, whatever that means, hoping this whole culture shift just passes them by? Because here's what you don't do when you have a guy like Shedeur. You don't wait. You don't hesitate. You don't hedge your bets with tired veteran signings and QB competitions, just to protect egos. You go all in. You double down on the guy who didn't just step into the moment, but created one. You tell the locker room, the media, the fans, this is our guy. Let's ride. Because if you don't, then don't act surprised when he rides out. To Dallas. Or Atlanta. Or Miami. Or any team that understands what it means to build something bigger than football. Because that's what Shedeur offers. Not just wins. Not just hype. But legacy. The kind that turns a cursed franchise into a movement. But only if they're brave enough to let him lead. So to Cleveland, consider this your wake-up call. This isn't about talent. This isn't about age. This isn't even about stats. This is about vision. And Shedeur already sees it. Now the question is, do you?